Welcome to the 2022 PI Conference. I am thrilled that in my first year as President and CEO of the Immune Deficiency Foundation that I've been able to watch our team really move us from fully virtual events to a hybrid solution that helps the IDF community engage more fully. I think that you'll see we have a full schedule to cover over the next 3 days, and we have opportunities for learning and connection. And I hope you're as excited as I am. All of the sessions are presented on this virtual platform and will be available on demand about an hour after each session is over. In fact, for this session, if you need Spanish interpretation, there is an icon at the bottom of your screen that's a globe, and you can click on that, and we actually are going to have this session translated into Spanish. After this opening session today, we'll have time to connect with others in tailored chat sessions and get an opportunity to engage with our sponsors and exhibitors in the expo area. And finally, later this evening, we're going to have an incredible magic show with Joshua Seth, which will be fun for children of all ages. Tomorrow, we have sessions available that address 3 different goals: know your diagnosis, understand the science, and navigate the journey. Once the educational sessions are over tomorrow, you won't want to miss our Heroes of the Herd celebration, where we're going to honor 6 incredible individuals who are being recognized with the Boyle Scientific Achievement Award, the Art of Nursing Award, the Plasma Hero Award, the Community Hero Award, and the Community Impact Award. And don't forget to look on the platform for the game, where you receive points for various activities during the conference. We're actually going to be announcing the winners for that as well tomorrow evening. And then on Saturday, the hybrid adventure begins in Cerritos, California, Chicago, Illinois, Baltimore, Maryland. We're going to start the day off with our Walk for PI in those cities, and then we're going to host a watch party in each of those locations. Also on Saturday, we have the Walk for PI Coast to Coast for those who want to join in on the fun virtually. In addition to the scheduled activities, we have several on-demand sessions that you can watch at your leisure. And also, please make sure you visit the Kids Zone and the PI research booths that are listed in our with our other exhibitors. And of course, IDF has a booth as well. We have a lot of brand new information like our updated school guide, the fall issue of the IDF Advocate, that's our biannual print magazine, and a brief survey that we'd love for you to take. It is only a couple of questions, but we're hoping that the results of that will help us serve you better. While you're at the exhibit booths, please make sure to stop by and visit with our sponsors. Their support allows us to provide this programming right now free to all participants. And on that note, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors: CSL Behring and Takeda, Grifols and Horizon Therapeutics, Chiesi, Kedrion Biopharma, Octapharma, and Pharming, Bioproducts Laboratories, Enzavant, X4 Pharmaceuticals, Accredo, ADMA Biologics, Koru Medical Systems, Biotech, and BioPlus Infusion. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our presenters. There are nearly 40 immunologists, experts, researchers, and others who are going to address some of the most important issues facing the PI community over these next 3 days. On the event platform, you should be able to find all the information you need about the conference. There is a downloadable conference program, links to pages for easy reference, a list of featured sessions and upcoming activities, and other information that's actually added daily. We are thrilled to have 9 sessions, this is one of them, that will be interpreted into Spanish, and those are listed in the session descriptions. Okay, I've talked enough about the conference and IDF. The real reason that we're here today is to meet Ilana. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce our incredibly special guest today, Ilana Jacklin. Ilana is an author, speaker, influencer, and patient advocacy strategist. In 2009, after 19 years, and I think that bears repeating. After 19 years of uncontrolled infections and medical gaslighting, Ilana was finally diagnosed with a primary immunodeficiency, hypogammaglobulinemia. She has worked to share her story and advice for other patients through social media, including multiple viral videos on TikTok and through her best-selling self-help book, Surviving and Thriving with an Invisible Chronic Illness. She has also written for the Huffington Post, Cosmopolitan, and IG Living magazine. She currently works at Health Union as an associate director and previously worked at organizations like We Go Health, Global Genes, and FDNA's Genomics Collaborative. Ilana's TikToks, where she shows the realities of chronic illness, live streams her infusions, and talks candidly about challenging conversations with medical professionals, have garnered millions of views in the past year. And this is an editorial note. I started following Ilana on TikTok when I knew she was joining us for this conference. And in a word, her content is fierce and unapologetic in all the best ways. Okay, maybe that's 2 words. Ilana, I am thrilled to have you here.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to talk first about the invisible factor of your illness. It is a topic that comes up so much with members of the PI community, that sense of, but you don't look sick. How do you address that with people you meet?
Well, first, I acknowledge that I am, in fact, a Victoria's Secret supermodel. I've never used an Instagram filter in my life. No, and I remind them that, for me, having my disease be invisible almost killed me. It's wonderful to look well when you are well, but when you're actively severely ill, it's kind of a hindrance. And I realized that invisible illness is something that socially really makes life hard for us in the PI community. But more importantly, it contributes to medical gaslighting, where doctors prejudge patients and don't test them for what their symptoms are indicating. And that's so dangerous. And it's really become my mission to make sure we fight that stereotype so that we can better and more quickly diagnose PI patients.
If I can just stay with that theme for a second. So because I think this is what I hear you saying. Do you think the fact that you don't always look sick is part of why it took so long, 19 years, to get an accurate diagnosis?
Yes, absolutely. And that started with just me, even outside of other people not seeing that I was visibly ill, because sick was my baseline. It was my normal. It was normal to me, to my family, and to my pediatricians growing up. It was kind of a frog in boiling water situation. And not to mix metaphors, but like the house was on fire, and it stopped occurring to me and to all of us that this was not normal, because everything just kind of felt and on the outside looked normal.
So I'm saying, you can tell the 19 years struck me. I mean, that's 2 full decades of waiting for answers. But the thing that really blows my mind about that is, as harrowing as your story is, it is sadly not unique. The average time to diagnosis for those with PI is 9 to 15 years. So you talked a little bit about this, but what factors do you think contribute to that?
Well, it's startling how many patients I've met with PI who, this is their exact story. I was sick, I looked fine, no one took this seriously for years, and decades passed before they got to live, normal, healthy lives. And when we consider, I guess, why does this happen? I think a lot of it has to do with, well, PI starts at birth for many of us. And for the women in my life now who have children, their kids are just like one roller coaster ride of daycare infections. But at some point, their immune systems are supposed to catch up, and ours don't. They won't. And to a child or a family who has never known anything else, it's not a red flag. After my diagnosis, we learned that my mother actually had combined variable immune deficiency disease, which made a lot of sense. It was almost like, well, she didn't recognize that it was happening because this had happened to her and she was told that it was normal. So she felt that it was normal for me too. So, who is there to explain to us that this is not normal? It's supposed to be our doctors, right? They're supposed to be the ones, but especially now, we have so few precious opportunities to seek the kind of care we need. And that happens for so many reasons. There's, insurance, there's limited time for appointments. There's not a lot of great diagnosticians that we can get access to. And just the fact that getting into a doctor right now, post-COVID, can take months for the simplest of things. There are just so many barriers to good care and good diagnostics.
Staying kind of with that diagnostic theme, recent studies have suggested that between 70% and 90% of those with a PI are not yet diagnosed. So if that's accurate, while it would make all forms of PI rare, but they would not be nearly as rare as we think. How do you think that might affect public awareness and perceptions maybe for these diagnoses?
Well, first I would say, I'm not shocked at all by the possibility of that, of PI not being as rare as we think. I think PI is kind of like the chronic illness community's best kept secret. That's why it's so important that we keep pumping out our awareness efforts in any way we can. I think, the foundation is doing a great job of that. And I think it's up to all patients and caregivers to play a part as well. And I really encourage everyone to go out there and share their stories, because you never know. It's a friend, a neighbor, a classmate might be going through the same thing that you are going through and not have the words for it.
Absolutely. And I guess it's important to note that diagnosis is really only the beginning of the journey. You talk a lot about the odyssey you've been on, and in finding the right treatment plan, and just to be honest, the frustration in getting there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. Yes. I really thought it's finally over when I was diagnosed. I was 19 and naive, but I actually think I was the sickest during that 10-year gap of diagnosis to effective treatment. And that's because I put way too much faith in my local immunologist to put me on the right treatments. But unfortunately, I don't think he lifted a finger to speak with another provider, to reach out to a foundation like yours, to even call the pharmaceutical companies for the medications that he was prescribing to figure out what he should have been doing with my treatment plan. And it took me a long time to realize he was never going to do that. I had to do that. I had to pick up the phone and figure out how this disease is treated, which is just not something you anticipate with any diagnosis. And it was really a full-time job for a while. I finally found a provider who listened and who was able to get on the phone with me to have these conversations with everyone else, and who admitted that there was a knowledge gap, but that they were going to make that effort to try and learn. And I had a great provider in South Florida. I recently moved across the country to Vancouver, Washington, and I've also found great care here. And fortunately, I'm really excited to announce that I've had no infections for 9 months, which is the longest period in my life that I have ever gone without an infection. So excited
I
about
feel if I didn't think that I would mess up the Zoom screen, I'd find my reaction to do the celebration or whatever it is. I am, well, first of all, congratulations for that. And that's something I know that you're probably grateful for, but my goodness, for the first time and for 9 months. Well, here's to the next 9 months, and then the next 9 months, and then the next 9 months. So I'm so thankful that you had a great continuity of care as you made a cross country move, because I know that also can sometimes be an issue.
very scary for a lot of patients, but it is possible. So that's great.
You've become a real leader in figuring out how to tell your story on new platforms and in new ways. I mentioned I follow you on TikTok. I don't even follow my 24-year-old son. So, what is the key to your success? What would you tell others about how to spread the word and raise awareness?
First, prepare to feel like a big idiot. I've had tons of practice at failing on social media platforms. You definitely feel silly getting out there on TikTok and trying to play into the trends. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 32. So at times I really struggled to keep up with the culture. I'm a writer at heart. So I had to switch up my mindset to be like, I'm going to write out scripts of what I want to say. And then I'm going to write the story because words are my best bet. And then I'm going to work to translate that into whatever way makes sense to reach the audience. So, at the end of the day, the goal, the mission to educate patients about rare disease and chronic illness, it far outweighs any sense of humiliation or embarrassment of trying to rap or dance or act. And I throw my heart into my social media work because I know that it's going to reach someone who needs to see it. And it'll probably reach a bunch of 16-year-olds who are dying laughing at me, but that's okay. I've been through a lot worse for a lot less positive outcome. So I just recommend keeping the end goal in mind and putting yourself out there over and over and over again until you reach the younger version of you who needed to see you on their screen.
I love that. I love the way you phrase that. And when I watch your videos, I see someone who is strong and vulnerable and very authentic. And so obviously that resonates. So just kind of staying with that, you really know what you're saying, even in the way you're saying it, but definitely what you're saying, it really seems to resonate with so many people. So how do you make sure that your message cuts through all that noise and kind of clutter that is social media?
Oh, and there definitely is a lot of it. I think, I guess when I think about it, I definitely have an assertive personality type. And I'm here to go to war on behalf of this community and all rare disease communities. Physically, I don't have the strength to fight like an actual warrior, but I'm nothing if not adaptive. So I do a lot of research on what makes a message come through loud and clear on different platforms, through different forms of media. And it's a study. It's an ongoing study of advocacy through media. And it's just a matter of not being afraid of a new challenge and pushing through. Authenticity, like you said, it's kind of my best weapon against apathy. And there's a lot of that on social media. But my socials are coming through with just the most. If you follow me on Instagram as well, you'll see my stories are just very blunt honesty. That this is what it's like to live with a disease that isn't seen. It isn't diagnosed often enough. It isn't recognized by ER doctors in emergency settings. And that's scary. And that's a fight that never stops. And I show that as clearly as I can. And I think people of all kinds can find a universal thread in that struggle that they relate to.
I couldn't agree more. And I also think that it's just so interesting. I think some people don't realize that you really do study. This is how seriously you take this. So you have social media, which uses different interesting and engaging ways to catch people's attention, but at the same time, there's an art form to it. And it's something that you're investing time to study because the importance of your message is so critical to you and then to all of us in the PI community. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I just on that, I was thinking, um, it really meant so much to me the first time that I saw a PSA, a public service announcement on immune deficiency. It was something that, especially after I was diagnosed, that almost brought me to tears because I felt represented and seen. And I think anytime that we can help others feel that, and I know that's something this foundation absolutely does, is such an incredible thing to do. And I'm so grateful to help in any way I can. And I'm so grateful for all that you guys do here. So
Thank you for that. You are not alone and you are very seen. So please know that. And there's a connection in this community that it's kind of, I think, as I've onboarded just the few months I've been here, that is unbelievably powerful and definitely very comforting. So we've talked about your condition being invisible and rare, but we haven't yet addressed the fact that it's chronic and lifelong. So I've had patients, many patients, tell me that in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, that the people around them finally understood what it was like to fear infection so intensely. But that was, in a sense, temporary. And so, you and others with PI, you must worry about illness and infections all day, every day, for the rest of your life. And that was a long winded way of asking, do you think that those around you now understand your condition better? Or has the fact that they've moved on made it even maybe more frustrating?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, on some level, I think people understand better. I do. As we all know, there are a lot of people who still don't seem to get it. And like, wow, what a privilege for them. At the same time, I've never had the expectation that anyone outside of my doctors, and at times not even them, has the responsibility to save my life. I would be crushed a million times over if I felt that I would be so disappointed by society in general, because that's just not the society that we live in. And it's hard to contextualize a lack of empathy around people who think our disease isn't something that actually exists outside of TV shows. And that means we all have a lot of work to do here, not to hide what we're struggling with, and not to alienate people, although at times that can be tempting, but to endear them and to help them see, this is a real person who wants everything that you want, who faces all the struggles that the rest of the world faces, and does it with a condition that cranks the difficulty level up to 11. And, we have to make ourselves known, be a little louder, make sure that the next generation knows we were here and we work to make their journeys a more visible one and a more human one.
I liked when you said you're someone who wants everything you want. When you said that, I thought, wants everything you want and deserves it just as much as you. I love that. One thing you've done that I think is just so instructive is that you've recorded your infusions so people can understand what the process is like. So, what has the response been to that?
Oh, it's been wonderful and unexpected. I play with the idea of even doing like a weekly live of my infusions, because I think people really get a kick out of it for so many reasons. And I can analyze that just by looking at all the comments on the videos that I posted doing my infusions. But I get comments from other patients, of course, saying like, that's me, I'm doing mine too, which is like amazing. So nice to like see and hear from those other patients. I also get just comments that make me cry happy tears, because it's from moms who are, getting ready to give their kids their first infusion, or they're just being told their kids are going to be getting this infusion, and being able to see someone do it. And have that trepidation, because I did my first infusion like after, like I said, it was a long journey to diagnosis, but to diagnosis and treatment. So when I did my first sub-Q infusion, after a long time at home, I was making fun of myself, but I was like terrified. I was like, I don't think I'm old enough to be doing this, which I think is how a lot of patients feel when they first do their infusions by themselves. But I think just seeing somebody else just be honest about it, like that it can be scary, but that it's also exciting, is a relief. And then I get people who are healthy and just scrolling along, and this comes up on their For You page, and they're just super curious and they have lots of questions about it. And I love that. I love that, it's a chance to educate people who may otherwise never even known that our community exists, and may one day realize they have friends, family, coworkers who have this condition and will know something about it.
I think that second audience that you mentioned is just as important. It's, the content you're providing, sharing your stories, and sharing your journey with infusion, all of that is helping those who are going through the same thing. But it's that person scrolling through that you're introducing them and raising awareness about again, an invisible illness, because they may think, oh, but that person looks healthy. So, they may not realize that they have a lot of people in their life who may be dealing with invisible illnesses, whether or not it's a primary immunodeficiency or not, but certainly if it is.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the top comments I get too is I would never know that you had this condition. And I'm like, well, now you know.
Is there anything else? I could keep talking. I could keep thinking of things, but I am mindful of time, but I want to make sure, is there anything else that you want to make sure that we cover today?
I think we've covered a lot of great stuff. And, I think you've asked great questions. I'm so excited to be, I guess, just a part of the efforts here. And I would just encourage everyone watching to stay tuned. And if you haven't yet, check out all the great resources you guys offer. I mean, just stuff that I've enjoyed throughout the years, the support groups, the events. I really love the new PI information cards that you came up with that I now carry around in my wallet, which I think is so useful in so many scenarios for us. And I'm excited to see the other sessions and learn about what's to come for our community this year.
Alana, I cannot tell you what a thrill that it's been to meet you, just how much I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, but really also for spreading the word to so many. The impact, and I hope you realize this. I mean, you can see numbers of your followers, and we talked about how many people have viewed your videos, but if for any reason you didn't know, please know the impact you're having. It's really beyond measure. It's really
Thank you.
beyond even the numbers you see.
Thank you.
And thank you also for helping us kick off our 2022 PI conference in style.
This was
Thank you, everyone.